Okay, here we go. There. Hi, everybody. I'm Ashley. I was on here last night, so I'm sure by now most of you know who I am. I'm one of the BPW board members here in Moncton, and I have Michelle Alcorn here with us tonight, one of our club members and female leader extraordinaire. Here to just chat with us about what she's all about and what she does. So thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for having me tonight. And thanks to all of the wonderful women at the BPW for making all of this possible.
No problem. Maybe we could just start off talking a little bit about yourself for people out there that might not know you, what it is you do, and kind of, what you're all about.
Well, what I'm all about is connecting people. So that's really an exciting piece. And I have the opportunity to do that through a lot of different ways based on my work, my volunteer work, and the different things that I do. But, my main role, I guess I would say, I've celebrating 11 years this year as the founder, president, and CEO for R&R Solution. So we do workforce retention strategies and focus on leadership, just working with individuals to connect them with the right opportunities. So a lot of career counseling, planning, over a decade of that. Prior to that, I was working as a branch manager of a recruitment business. So let's just say for 16 years, I've been interviewing people in Atlantic Canada. There's well over 1,000, I think it's getting up over 2,000, probably a few hundred people that I've had the privilege of placing in jobs. And, one of the things I knew that the connection needed to be was, we've got so much of our newcomers coming in. I have the privilege of working in international recruitment for, again, well over a decade. And the connection was language, and it was just helping people. So a year ago, so it was the end of February, March 6th, actually, I took over for Atlantic Canada Language Academy. So it is a English language training school in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, which also celebrated 10 years.
Wow, perfect.
Right? And it was both of us for 10 years last year. It was, and at first, when I was into buying the business, I didn't realize that. And it was one of those, I think, a good synergy. And that was about connecting people around the world. So out of that, as you know, I've got a live cooking show and the president of the Albert County Chamber of Commerce and eating and drinking my way through the
And when you talk about your two businesses, I know very little of this about the Atlantic Canada Language Academy. It sounds like the two would really complement each other perfectly.
When I looked at the strategy behind it, they do. And it really became about that last piece of connecting people. So, there's talented people like yourself and myself and all the wonderful people listening all over the world. And the one thing often was stopping them was the language piece. So when the opportunity came up and the school was, like I said, Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, one of, Seaside was beautiful towns. My father was born in Alma. So for me, this is growing up in Albert County, being rural was very important. And it was a connection that way. And I know that, having the opportunity to be well-traveled around the world, over 25 countries I visited. And, it's just bringing people back and connecting. So now if someone is looking for a job or they're going to school, and the one barrier was the English language, I've got a team of incredibly talented teachers that can help anybody solve that.
Yeah, and it's perfect. So is most of your work been altered, especially I guess when I think about the Language Academy due to COVID? Has like the approach changed? How has it been impacted? And I guess maybe with R&R Solutions too, recruiting, it's done all over Atlantic Canada, or is it done all across Canada?
It's done across Canada. It's done across the world.
So virtual's not new to you.
Virtual actually is not new to me at all. That's such a
okay.
Say that, Ashley. I've been recruiting and doing recruitment online for over 16 years. So for me, when we landed everybody online, I can probably say that it was a very comfort level place for me. I've worked and coached a lot of people and just being more comfortable. I've hired people across Canada for many ways over the phone, on video interviews, Skype, Zoom, whatever the platform, Teams of choice. Work in the educational industry, I use a lot of Teams now. But it's really was about the ease of connection, just to see that people are people everywhere in the world, and we're just looking for a great place to live. And COVID made us all in a level playing field. And I think that that was unique. You asked me earlier today when we were chatting, it's interesting. I spent, this morning as speaking to people in Vietnam, and this afternoon it was about Turkey. Tomorrow morning, there'll be a conference. I'll be participating in Turkey. Usually it's about 8 to 9 countries a week and I feel like I'm there with them. And it's really quite a brilliant industry. And as a language school, we connect people both like into pathways. So students that study with us that need those requirements to get into the big universities across, we have UNB and Crandall here, and St. FX, Acadia, and lots of incredible schools, MBCC and SCC. And if they study with their school, they get a pathway into those wonderful educational institutions. And it's a real privilege because helping people internationally, sometimes they don't know which to go into, what career to go into. So I think you can see how 16 years of placing people in jobs really connects.
Well, it's a really perfect marriage. And I'm sure as a newcomer, there's already so many like barriers and things that you have to acclimatize to and figure out, and what the job market's like, where the demand is, where it might be projecting forward. It's really great to have someone that has those expertise to help them build their skill sets and maybe target their education. So that's really cool.
And the shift in the market that's happened in COVID, Ashley, I think is in a way that, again, it affected everybody. But at the end of the day, people want their families, they want safety. And I couldn't be more proud to be from Atlantic Canada and in a place where I know the news is a little bit different here and there, but speaking with people globally on a regular basis, I can tell you, we really are in a safe and wonderful place. And, it's great to see more and more families want to shift their way, as we call it MTV, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver. And
never heard that.
Because, you asked me earlier about my background. I'll tell you a little bit about my life across Canada. But people, I think, have shifted and living rurally or in smaller communities like Greater Moncton and Nova Scotia and the surrounding. It's just an unbelievable way of life. And organizations like BPW that to me, are probably one of the best organizations I've ever known to embrace multiculturalism, embrace the world. I'm very proud as we were doing the calculation, 16 years.
16 years.
We couldn't do that.
15. We were both bad at math apparently today.
That I first met, because it was 2005. And, it was Maureen McIntosh's basement where we had a December meeting. And I met, Googie and just a few other just incredible people that have been in and around this community for a long time. But Maureen, I just want to say thanks and a shout out to her and to continuing to be a great legacy member, because and when I both moved home from Toronto, BPW gave me a place.
Oh, that's phenomenal. It's a sisterhood. It's a really great group of people. And I know when I joined, I was looking really for connection. Like that's why I showed up, and it turned out to be a lot more than that for me. And it's been a learning opportunity, a leadership opportunity, and our reach is so wide and far, well beyond Greater Moncton, which I think makes us very unique, because women have the same issues globally. And I think sometimes we forget that. Oh, my headphone's falling out. There's some honesty for everybody.
That's a global issue too.
Right? And something you said kind of captured, I guess, my attention, and I'm curious sort of your perspective on it. We're seeing headlines about women being disproportionately impacted by by COVID, specifically because a lot of the industries that have been hit are female-dominated industries. Are you seeing those effects in your work with R&R?
100%. And not just, especially with R&R Solution, because it is looking at where that front line and all of the lines of, we work in all lines of recruitment. We're doing some work in, CPA and controller level and C-suite, but there was a huge amount of movement in our mid and frontline workers with tourism, hospitality. There's an uptick in our healthcare, but the thing is the displaced people that came out of industries didn't have the same skill sets going in. So it's put more of a stress. The other stress is, traditionally, a lot of that force with the students being home and the children being home, that shifted the attention oftentimes on the female parent, especially in a dual parent situation, that they were also tasked with working from home or being able to be homeschooling and doing some different things and owning an educational institution. I will add an extra piece of perspective and a big shout out to teachers locally, globally. Mine, they're exceptional. Because I don't think we realize that, and there's a disproportionate amount of female teachers, so an extra
again, right?
Because the teachers were that person in our life, no matter how old we were, that they had the answers. Very early in life, we started with that. Who did we go to? The teacher.
Our teacher. You're 6. You're in grade 1. You go ask your teacher. You're
in grade 12.
Oh, you don't know what to do with your life. You go talk to your teacher.
University.
Yeah.
Right. And they all are our frontline workers. And you know what happened with that group is they also shifted. We didn't know the answers either. And that created a dual impact in that. And I want to put one more piece. And as a language school, a very large amount of our students stay in homestays. And I say that with such a big smile because it's a gift to welcome an international student in your home. And what happens is, and this is a great statistic, working with Languages Canada, but actually 60% of homestay families across Canada are single parent families. And of those, 70% are female. So yes, Ashley, the impact on females in the ripple effect is, I think, broader based than we all see in the front piece. And many of those homestay families are losing anywhere from $700 to $1,000 a month that they had. And also not having those international students in their homes. It's an economic impact on regions, but there's a lot of that group that's been hit a little bit harder.
Yeah, and it goes so far beyond economic impact. There's all these other, and you're right. We know like the broad. We don't know how this is gonna affect long term for the next 2, 3, 4, 10 years. Females and just humanity in general, but I definitely think that there's more and more research. I know the YWCA just released a paper around the impact on females because of COVID-19. I need to go read it, but I'm glad that at least people are talking about it and the research is happening. So hopefully that helps us better prepare for dealing with returning to some normalcy and helping women reintegrate into the workforce that have had no choice but to leave because of family obligations or have been unfortunate and lost their jobs. Because we don't want to move backwards.
Reskilling that is happening at all levels, and that's impacted on both sides of the equation, male and female. Yeah. But there's a few things in working in the human resources community, and a big, huge, ginormous hug to them. There's a saying that I heard recently in one of my conferences, and HR is the new IT. And I tell you, I had that real privilege about 3 years ago to do a 5 cities speaking tour around the province of New Brunswick for the Human Resources Association. And my topic was recruitment, but what I was talking about was putting the human back into the human resources. Yeah. And I believe that COVID-19 did more of that than anybody ever anticipated. And the value system has shifted on understanding how people work at home, in and around and away. And I think it's really important. There's a lot of smaller organizations that didn't know how to handle shifting. I've got human resources issues that they never had. They've got termination papers that fortunately they never had to do before. I want to give a gift to every one of those small entrepreneurs that never had to do that before last year. And a big hug, because you know what, I hope it's only growth from here forward, that we don't have to do more of that all organizations are building forward. That's what statistics tell us, which is good, Ashley. That's it. And I can tell you we're busy. My incredible colleague, Patrick, that works with me day in and day out, we are very busy helping organizations relook at the organizational development and look at people's roles. And you know what? I believe individuals are also self-reflecting.
I think this has been a huge year of self-reflection for everybody. And when you say that expectation or like bringing the human back to human resources, I don't think you can capture more than that, right? And I think of myself, I had my 14-month-old at home with me, going back to work after maternity leave doesn't get more real than that, right? And I'm so fortunate to have a supportive employer that was able to enable me to work full time and parent when I needed to in those first 6 or 7 weeks here in New Brunswick when we were all just home. But yeah, like you see the real people now. We see dogs, we see cats, and I mean those are the fun and fluffy things. But there's a lot of like not so fun and fluffy things too. That I think there's way more home. I struggle with work-life balance. It's more like integrating the two. And
well, as an entrepreneur, I can tell you something. There's a lot of advice we can give on that one, and a lot of people have come for that one, Ashley, because they're like, "How have you worked for yourself for 11 years and worked from home?" It's balance.
Yeah.
And it's and I can tell you, I've been out of balance because everybody else got at home too. It was really good when I was one of the few at home. Now everybody's there.
Now everybody's home.
my advice on that one, I'll just give a piece of advice on that, Ashley. And it's working with your employer that you've done, getting opportunity and asking for solutions together, because I think when you can sit down together and you can sort that out, it makes it a considerable difference. But try to keep the typical routines, getting up and moving around and walking. I can tell you, I work from home, I still do 5,000 steps plus a day. But that takes like focus to make sure, drinking 2 liters of water. Please hydrate, everybody. If I can give a healthcare, you'll
healthcare
get about food after. But I learned a lot a few years ago when I had a healthcare crisis, and I was actually dehydrated most of the time. I kind of had this falsity that I was drinking enough water, but I was really consuming it only at meals and not in between. And more people at home, I want to say, get your water. I use my
water right here.
Look at that.
Yeah.
And make sure you have it.
Yeah, water. I'm really good at water intake, but not everybody is, and I always haven't been. That is like the most random topic, but it's so important.
But we're going to talk about it, if that's okay, because
sure.
We're working in different environments. And I just want to say that it's important, because going back to working from home and how that works differently, if you understand what your environment's about, because it's different ventilation systems. So, many of us were at offices that had really unbelievable systems that the air circulated differently. I have to tell you, I'm spending some time at my massage therapist right now, because for a while I was, sitting on a couch, or I'm leaned over, and we all need to get some better posture, and we need to do some of that. So I hope that into all the incredible healthcare professionals out there, I think people just need to make sure that they're taking care of themselves and understand that everybody's health has changed a bit. So nutrition and movement they're just important. And it's a big impact on businesses, because now they have people with ergonomic issues that they didn't have before.
No, that's very true. And maybe some we don't even know about yet, right? Yeah. I guess shifting a little bit more away from like the specifics, although I do want to go back and talk about cooking later. I definitely want to pick your brain about like if we have women out there listening that are maybe aspiring to get more involved in a leadership role, whether it's on a local board, a volunteer opportunity, in their place of employment. Maybe it's a young female, maybe it's not. Like, what would be like your number one piece of advice to somebody that's like thinking about it, but maybe worried about stepping outside of their comfort zone?
The first thing is do it. So let's start with do it. Get out there and do it, because, and this is so amazing for me as a career counselor. Ashley, you're tickling my inner side, getting my opportunity to, work with the students and people. And that's a very frequent question. And recently there was a National Women in Education panel, and that very thing came up, and it came up to volunteerism. So, I'm really glad it came up, because if you look, and there's always a different type of organization to volunteer in, right? I remember meeting you a few years ago. We're outgoing, and you're in this executive role, and you do so much more, and but you came in there purposeful, and thank you for that. And you know what? And I think when you go in, but you can choose to go on a Boys and Girls Club. You can go to the United Way, John Howard Society. I just recently did some project with them, and they're doing some major expansions and work. If you want to work frontline, you can do that. You can flip burgers at a barbecue. I promise you, there are people that need the help. and more so now than ever with COVID that they do, because things have changed, resources are different. We actually need help for people doing hand sanitizer and different things. It's, you know, find something in your community, and there will be a need there, but find something that you really enjoy, and you will find a way to be able to lead in that space is really what my advice is to people. But, you know, you can take one tactic, go learn something you didn't know at all before, and throw yourself full in, go for it, or, you know, lean into a passion. If it's cooking, get involved with Foods of the Fundy Valley in Albert County and find out what they're doing that's different in aggregating your farmers markets. I really couldn't begin to describe the opportunity that exists out there in those regions, and youth and seniors. I just have to say, you know what? The youth are coming up, and the seniors have a lot of advice, and they need a lot of care.
They really do, and right now it's tough, I think, for some seniors. So they need connection and support wherever they can get it. And I think there's a learning opportunity in anything you do. I think that's the one thing I've learned in my life to date is you might not think you're going to learn something new when you start maybe enter into a new opportunity, whether it be a new job, new volunteer opportunity, a new friendship. I don't know, you always learn. And I don't think I realized that in my early 20s, that everything is a learning opportunity, and you build skill sets in places you don't even necessarily intend to. So I just answered the question myself too.
I was going to ask you, what if you had to go back and give yourself advice in your early 20s? What would it be?
It would probably be to be like less afraid to do things that were like 100% like I was definitely very timid to do it good enough, not do it well enough, especially like public speaking engagements, those sorts of things. Something like this I probably never would have done. I was always that person kind of always involved, but like in the background. I was in the back of the sets in high school doing the painting and all that. And that stuff's just as important. I don't mean to like minimize that, but I was never the person at the front doing the public leading. So I think that would be my advice to myself, is I probably missed opportunities due to fear. And I think that's a typical female trait.
You know what? That fear is 100% the number one stopper of every person in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's often fear of the unknown. It's fear of different things. I think you just gave a wonderful demonstrated example, Ashley, of what, you know, starting from the backside of looking at production. You know, I'm a host and producer. So, you know, I work on production. I work with organizations. And it's funny because I'm the director oftentimes saying, tighten that up, do this, do that. And it's about, you know, performance. I'm a maximizer in the Clifton Strengths Finder. So, you know, I'm going to take anything and say, wow, you know, that's really good. How can we make it better? Which is why I love foods, because, you know, you can just always have fun with that. But, you know, find people that are mentors. And one of the questions I know you had sent me in advance was asking me about what had stopped and fear. Do you know what I tell you? It was fear of being underestimated, I think, was something for me, or was being underestimated is, you know, as a female going up in leadership. It was like, you know, when you were sitting at a table and, you know, with everybody and a lot of males. I'm 50. So I've had a few decades to go through some generational changes where there was a lot of things that were very much said in boardrooms and done and that are not now.
Yes,
and changed a lot. And I've matured through that. But, you know, I think in the past as a female, I could say that underestimating myself at times, and that comes to with maturity, but getting a good leadership team and a mentor will help.
And I was going to ask you about mentorship, like, number one, you probably have multiple mentors, but why is mentorship important? And like, I think that's a good word. I would connect with DPW. And in my experience with the club is like, unbeknownst to me, when I walked into my first meeting, I was meeting multiple people that would become mentors to me in different ways, and not necessarily a formal capacity. So the value of mentorship is like exponential and maybe undervalued and not talked about enough.
I agree. I agree. And of course, that might have been a natural one for you and I. had the privilege of speaking maybe a year and a half ago now. I guess we'll have to COVID in there. on a topic on mentorship with our BPW group.
Yes.
And one of the things about that is, and having multiple mentors, and I'll tell you something, is finding people that have results that I admire and respect. I have taken time to seek some people out, spend time with them, actually listen, truly listen. And I'll give Darlene Smith a big shout out. You know, she's a mentor of mine. She's a great friend. Sharing is caring all the time, is definitely someone that, you know, regardless of, you know, situation, and, you know, not a relentless level of positivity and optimism, but support, you know, someone that would be like, let's solve that problem and let's figure out how we're going to get that done, you know, and, you know, so having another person that shares a lot of great energy, we feed that for each other, and that serves as a great mentor in that area. And then, you know, I've got other people, Renee Purdy, you know, has been for 5 years now, but, you know, in health, and having someone that I'm consistently looking at and questioning and making sure that those things are there. And then finance and leadership. So, you know, it's sort of one of those, there's lots of consistent people in my life. Probably my biggest mentor is my mom.
Mothers are amazing. And I said, yeah, I think I have a whole new level of respect for my own mom now that I am a mom too, which is just a whole other topic. But yeah. And yeah, BPW, the girls are just a room full of mentors. I don't know. I've had such positive experiences. Kim is phenomenal, always willing to listen. Shout out to Kim, since that's the kind of what we're doing. But she's so great.
Mentor on organization that I can say, or more someone I aspire to be more like.
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm signing up as a mentor.
Right.
Putting that out there. And that's such a great piece, right? And then, you know, I think of some of our other past presidents, and Kathy Sweet popped into my mind as, you know, of someone, and it's funny because there was many times in life that we'd be mistaken for each other in public.
I can see that.
But, yeah, just, you know, two outgoing, blonde-haired, blue-eyed women that are, you know, confident, okay to walk into a room and say, hey, what's going on? You know, and how, and who's here that we can connect together. And, you know, I found that she was someone that was always great with that piece of it. So,
yeah, I've been very fortunate, and much like yourself, through the club so far. And I'm sure as we continue to be involved, there's so many names that come to mind, like Donna Green. I can't talk about mentors without mentioning Donna for myself. One of my good friends, has just been such a great positive influence. And again, just like guidance and leadership, there's just some women that have just been amazing. I don't even know what else to say. They're just
I'm gonna
great.
I'm going to give a real callback. So Rosalind Miller is also my business partner with Atlantic Canada Language Academy. And, you know, Rosalind's been a mentor in a long time. And, you know, it's interesting, when BPW did 100 Women Strong out in the newspaper in Moncton, you know, Roz at that point was part of the BPW. And it was interesting, as her and I have stayed friends over the years and stayed connected and become closer friends. She came out of retirement for the journey to eat, drink her way around the world with me, owning a language school, because, you know, that's what you do. You get to travel. And that's what we were supposed to be doing, and bring
someday again, right?
But, you know, we'll get out there and we'll do that. But, you know, it's individuals like that in your life that are extremely consistent. And, you know, you sort of look at that piece, and it's nice because and they're different ages, right? Roz is a bit older than I am. I've got mentors that are younger than me.
Yes.
So I think that that's something that I would also encourage people, is to, you know, find the people that are your tribe, find people that are going to believe in what you do, even if it's a little crazy. Trust me, give me a call. I'm usually pretty good for anything. But take that time and reach out to some nonprofit organizations to volunteer. I think that's a great way to seek out mentors too. Most volunteers and members of boards of all nonprofit organizations get a giant hug. But I can tell you, those are the individuals in the communities that also make great mentors.
Really great mentors. And sometimes a mentor is someone you don't expect to be your mentor. And that's my last comment on mentorship. Like, you don't enter the friendship or the connection thinking of them as that. And then you kind of reflect back and you realize, kind of the impact that they've had. I guess on a different note, in terms of barriers in your career, you've obviously had a really long, diverse career as a female. And like you mentioned, you've kind of seen some of the generational changes in the boardroom or just in the landscape of as a business owner, a female business owner. What would you say has been one of your biggest or greatest barriers to date?
Being underestimated, I think, would be that barrier that, you know, when I would go into situations, and that was sometimes that female thing, when I was underestimated at maybe what I could accomplish. I'm a high capacity person, so that's kind of a fun one. But, you know, my motive is usually fun. So as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing, you'll get a lot of maximization out of me. But, you know, looking at my career, I can say, you know, I started in retail, and I have what I'd say a master's in retail, which I love. Or I say, you know, I do have my MBA in it, but it's manners before attitude. And, you know, there's different ways to get those letters after your name. And that was my mom, you know, she really taught me those things. But, you know, barriers, you know, I watched her overcome many. And, you know, that was certainly inspiring. I was a very young manager. I moved to Fredericton when I was young and opened up the first Lady Foot Locker store in Brookside Mall, Fredericton, back in 1991. So there we'll go back. And I really had a big privilege. I spent 15 years with Woolworth, that company. And then, you know, I moved back here to Riverview, and then I had this company called American Eagle Outfitters give me a call.
We all know that.
Yeah, that was in 2001. A lot of people don't realize that is. So happy 20th, American Eagle. Just had. I've reached out to a couple colleagues, so it's kind of cool. And I was very part of the opening executive team that opened that across Canada. So I moved to Toronto, lived there for 5 years, and I stayed with the company for 3, and had the privilege of working in every province in our country and flying in and you know, to these most gifted, unique places across Canada. And I would often say, my kingdom for a boatload of Maritimers to come up here and do some work. But, you know, I can tell you something. I've met so many diverse people across our country and was just, you know, really embedded in multiculturalism in a way I never would have expected. I left them and went into the optical industry. So as
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah,
I didn't know about American Eagle.
So after I left them, I was the director of operations for them, and the company was really doing extraordinary. They did better in Canada than they ever expected, and still do today. They're an extraordinary company. But I left and went to the Provision and Sears optical stores. The company was called Cold Vision at the time. And I was the national director of sales and operations for Canada. So I ran about $90 million and 110 locations across Canada. And I got to work in medical at that point, Ashley. So for me, the shift out of retail, there was, you know, not a lot of females that were, you know, moving up in the executive. So I did, but you know what? I did it through credentials. Like I really, you know, I earned every dollar and cents of every KPI in a report that, you know, got me to where I sat at a table. But I'd like to think that, you know, I made a voice, but a lot of people underestimated it. At that time, there's a lot of male dominated executives in retail. That's since shifted a lot. So I'm very proud to say a great shift there, and continues to be probably balanced, but you definitely saw a shift where more and more female VPs and presidents, and many close friends of mine. I think of a mentor, Laura TC, that believed in me back when I was, you know, 30 and going to leave Atlantic Canada to go to Toronto. And I'm like, I don't know anything about Toronto.
Right.
You'll fly in anywhere in Canada and talk to anybody. She's right. And I did. And, you know, that journey in recruitment years, I didn't know was teaching me something then. And I spent after 2 years in the optical industry. My father was diagnosed with cancer at the time. And I realized, you know what? I was kind of missing home. I flew 42 out of 52 weeks of the year across Canada on a plane.
It's a lot of flying. I wouldn't bode well. I get sick.
A lot of flying. I love it. You know, when someone says about Canada, I have to say of all my favorite, like there's lots. Atlantic Canada is my favorite place. Halifax, I'll give Halifax a shout out. Probably my favorite big city. Amenity, uniqueness on the ocean. But, you know, I live in Greater Moncton, and it's a passion and a heart. I think Moncton is probably one of the most diverse and unique areas in our bilingual province. It brings me great pride to bring people and relocate them here and build. But, you know, Ashley, it was a different climb. And, you know, when I moved home from Toronto, nobody would hire me. So I spent 6 months unemployed. BPW was a great place for me because I didn't know anybody. Because I had a 416 area code on my resume. Pretty sure I just had a pretty good resume.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I understand when candidates and people are looking for jobs and get underestimated and then or told I was overqualified.
Yes,
for what? You know, I wasn't expecting to have $80 million in responsibility. If I did, I would have expected that compensation. You know, and that's a barrier that people have in compensation. And I can tell you, I battled my career. I love working in compensation now because it's about value for the work, not the human that's doing it.
Yeah.
So that pay equity piece actually would be another piece that's
so important, and we still have strides to make in that area, especially in the private sector. There's definitely some significant imbalances across the country. So I know our member of finance works very diligently to move pay equity forward. So shout out to France for doing that. I love it. We're mentioning so many of our, and there's so many we're not going to mention that are members or past members or prospective members.
Love you too. It's just one of those connecting, but yes.
Connecting, yes.
But then the piece that you get to do, right?
That's just it. Now, I can't leave tonight without you telling us about your cooking show. I need to, I always follow up on your posts, but I've never actually watched it. So let's talk about why'd you start it? I kind of get the feeling you just love cooking. So it was a natural fit for you. How do we tune in? And anything else you want to share? Like, this is the set of the show, is it not?
It is. So welcome to Michelle's Kitchen. My students end up calling me Maple Chef Michelle, and I love it. So we go with it. You know, food has been a big piece of my life for a very long time, and I love it. I took some lessons while I was running around Toronto. What do you do when you have spare time? Did some cooking lessons. Chef Trevor Rowe, I'll give him a holler when I move back. I took several of his cooking courses here. And I've done culinary team building with R&R Solution. It is something that we do. I worked at Shelley Butler and the team at Davico. But, you know, Renee Purdy and I back in 2018 did a year-long cooking course here. Dr. Renee Purdy, a naturopathic doctor, called Let's Eat. And it was about connecting people with food. And I always knew that there's a big common ground with everybody on that. You know, it's a leveler. When I travel around the world, it's like you can just moat anything, and you know,
it really is.
You can get anything. Get a glass of wine.
It is a connector. Food connects us.
There's my Joy.
Herb Joy. I have the same one upstairs.
One of my favorite humans. So we're gonna get her a shout out. But you know, I got to be honest with you. It came down to last summer. I've got my garden, at a rescue garden, because I rescued plants that needed rescuing, and I'm always cooking, and I couldn't get to Lunenburg, and I couldn't get to my school. And one of my teachers in Ho Chi Minh City, Jacqueline, love you, Jacqueline, couldn't get here. So we would find the time of day. There was a 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning that we could connect with each other. And then Rosalind and I and Donna, and it was, how do we stay connected? And we were fighting with a squash. It was hard, and she was looking at us going, we got to invite some of the students in here. One of the biggest things with immersive learning is to continue to listen to English and have an opportunity to practice and speak it. Or, same TV shows over and again. If they were at our school in Lunenburg, as some of our students had to be at home as well, they couldn't interact. So one thing in teaching as education was the same thing happening at the same time every week is really good for all of us.
Yeah.
And you know what, you got to eat. And I, was preparing food and always going to the farmers markets and just really building those connections. Anyways, my mom and I, who is my gift and probably one of my biggest mentors and biggest supporters. And, we would run around, and then, and I said, you know what, let's just take this live. And now we have students from all over the world. At any given Sunday, there could be 10, 15, 8 people from different countries. And it's the world can come. Please come. 9 a.m. Sunday mornings. Find us right at studyatlantic.com, which is our website for Atlantic Canada Language Academy. You can also find it on our Facebook page and Atlantic Canada Cooks. And please join in and just come and experience what is growing, what is happening here in Atlantic Canada. You know, I love, like, look at this one, Herbes de Provence de New Brunswick. You know, we celebrate things like we've got gourmet sauces by Scott's Kitchen, his buffalo sauce,
good.
His Albert County
175.
So Albert County turned 175 last year. We couldn't go out and celebrate, and you know, Briggs Maple and David Briggs and the team there. You know,
and just open a new shop.
We have a Maple alumni now. Annette Robichaud Butland and the team, you know, Darlene does work with us. You know, we just got together and said, you know, let's bring everybody together. So every Sunday morning, 6 recipes around my kitchen, 3 from my kitchen, 3 from around the world. And we cook with what's growing here. And the intent is to just show everybody what's available, food sustainability, and
so
what's happening, and it allows people to experience Atlantic Canada all over the world. They can
especially in the time when we're seeing people migrate here from other parts of the country. So
you know what they really want to know? What can you buy at the grocery store? What's cooking at the restaurants?
And food connects. Everybody wants to know that stuff.
Everybody does. And of course, anybody that's considering moving to our region here in Atlantic Canada, you know, Lunenburg and you know, here in Albert County in the Greater Moncton area, you know, anywhere here in Atlantic Canada, and you know, Prince Edward Island is a gift. They come in. I'll be using PEI potatoes in a week, and we're talking about, you know, Anna Green Gables, and I know I actually saw some news for them today. And you know, for us, it's about just showing the individuals what we have. And I can tell you something, Jacqueline from Vietnam, we shipped product last year for a big conference I did in December in Ho Chi Minh City. Cool. And we shipped the product, and she is drinking Funday Fog tea, and she has Briggs maple sugar. And each week you'll see her cooking a recipe from Vietnam with product from Atlantic Canada. So for cool. That is a gift that we had an opportunity to do that we didn't know. And I can tell you one thing, anybody that's going to come here, you know, can share that. And now the students around the world are sharing their recipes. They say, Michelle, I made your maple caramelized onions in Chile.
In Chile, so cool.
Or in Brazil.
They're putting us on the map, and not just for being most COVID safe in the country, which we've made national news for a few times. So,
well, I made that poutine last weekend, and it was pretty darn good.
Oh, now I won't pretend.
Well, I've got a really healthy version, because one of the things, most of the stuff I cook with is it's gluten-free, sugar-free for sure, and mainly dairy-free. So it was cheese this past weekend, so a little bit of cheese got in there. But it's, again, just following health, and it's about health and wellness, Ashley. So the other intention was about bringing people together to celebrate food. It's a common denominator, and if we can all eat a little bit more healthy together, then, you know, it'll lower our stress levels. Families are at home.
And we're cooking more.
Fun things. You tune in. We've got cooking boxes coming up that we're going to be delivered, and I'm going to do some live cooking. I don't even know what she's going to put in the box. I'm going to make a recipe live.
That's so cool.
You know,
who's putting the box together?
Angela McDougall. Okay. From Funday Farms Local Harvest. She's down here and down here.
I frequent her booth.
Yeah, market. Yeah. So her and I are orchestrating that. You know, we've got some other local suppliers, but you know, I want to shout out to the Albert County Chamber of Commerce, which I do happen to be the president. But you know, we were also just nominated our Solution for Business of the Year, as well as Community Service and Albert County Ambassador. So thankful for the team that, you know, that I lead and work with. And I can tell you the volunteerism I do is extraordinary, but many of those people that I named earlier, you know, I've got Lynn Kolposh, who was nominated for Rona Awards as well for Cyber PR Army. I couldn't survive without the work that she does on the back end. And we make sure that the cooking show, by the way, goes on YouTube every week. Our recipes go up on the website. We want people to come cook with us. Many people come in and turn the camera off, and they just hang out and just kind of hang out and eat their own breakfast, or, Now I've got people showing me what they cook for supper that night. So if it's Sunday morning and everybody's just tired and put on with Evelyn and what?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll be cooking up a meal at 9 o'clock on Sunday, but I definitely want to watch and tune in.
I know I've got a few friends of mine that say they sip their coffee for bed and watch, or listen in. But you know, you can watch the reruns. But you know, our school for Atlantic Canada Language Academy was nominated for the Food Service Award, and I got to say, it's for the love of food local. And that gives me such a great sense of pride. After 36 weeks, you can see behind me, every week I do the flip chart. It's got our menu. That was last week's. It was my Albert County poutine, my grilled cheese and brie and apple sandwich, Parmesan crisp, spinach and cheese dip from Rosalind, Kramer's old favorite, really good. Cheese salmon from Vietnam. That was absolutely incredible, with maple. Triple cheeseburger and chili cheesesteak that came in from Ireland.
Oh, so cool.
And this week's mushrooms. So if anybody wants to know, this Sunday I'm working with local suppliers. So we make sure we show exactly where the food is grown from and who is growing it and picking it. And
so food sustainability is such an important problem, and I don't know that it's getting as much attention as it needs, especially amidst COVID. I think it's becoming more apparent that we need to be more self-sufficient in our food. So I hope that things like this help shed some light on that and grow interest, because I think food can be a really scary thing for some people, especially the prospect of growing it and all these things. But if you can find a love in creating it and making it, I think that really helps.
Our local farmers are there to help everybody. And I think the one thing is neat is to understand that they are so encouraging of you having your home garden as well. So, and getting out there and understanding, you know, how much watering and feeding and seeding and all of those fun things that it really does take. And I think this past year, it made a big difference with people all over the world being at home. And there's a lot more home gardens that popped up. So we hope this year, I want to keep inspiring people to do it and showing them how.
Yeah, and we've been gardening here off and on. I'll say we went through a few years we didn't when I was pregnant, and then when we had a newborn. But for about 7 years, I think we've had a garden. So I really squash is my most successful. I don't know if I would say my favorite necessarily, but the most abundant, followed closely by tomatoes. Whereas other vegetables I've yet to be able to master. So there's definitely so much skill and science behind gardening that people really need to spend the time learning and researching, or at least ask the questions to our local farmers to give you some tips about soil types and nutrients in the soil. And if I could go on and on, but it's fun. It's really rewarding to see your own food. The first year we did it, I was like, we didn't have much, but it was really cool. And I guess, I look forward to doing that again. So I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to share. Those were kind of the main points I wanted to hit on. I feel like we could sit here and talk all day. I guess a fun question, since we're here talking about food, what's one of your favorite places if you're gonna treat yourself to a night out? Where would you head out to eat?
Oh, there's another one. You know what, depending on the type of food I'm looking for, I've got a few places in Moncton and around in Albert County that I love. And you know what, for fun and not for order, I'm going to give you a couple. So I'm going to start all the way down to 114 in Elma, Fundy National Park, home of my family. And in there, I'm going to have a couple of hard ones because there's an Octopus Garden Cafe that there's just so many things on the menu. I could eat all day long at Tipsy Tales Restaurant. I got to stop for a beer at Holy Whale Brewery. That's just more of the other side of that piece. And is Rocco's Cucina in Hillsborough.
So good.
Really fantastic. He's done an incredible job locally. He started at the local farmers market, worked his way into this, and as an entrepreneur, they have gluten-free pizza. You know, he listens to sort of some of those things and has done that. And, you know, and I come down into Riverview, and I got to tell you, I love Kwong's.
I've been in there in
a long time, not gonna lie. And you know, Viet Dong restaurant for Vietnamese over town is a favorite. And, you know, Mexicali Roses, big shout out to Matt and the team down there. I love Mexican. So for me, I'm probably taking you on a tour around the world and maybe some of my favorite restaurants. But I have to tell you, you know, eating in out and across Atlantic Canada is a privilege and a pleasure. I really could not do the service of all the incredible places, because there's not one place that, you know, I can say that all the way through downtown Moncton and around, they're extraordinary. Tide and Boar, what they're doing on the menu, what they're doing with the brewery pub.
Their new spot's awesome.
In there, you know, it's in the service was outstanding. You know, for me, it's all about the people. And, you know, when you have happy people and the team there is smiling, and I know that, you know, their leader, their employer is treating them well and they're excited. That's really an important thing to me is, you know, you treat, you know, your frontline staff are the one that are dealing with the customers every day. And it's interesting because I'll say this, that I'm working in recruitment right now, Ashley. You know, a big question that comes up, and it's like, you know, I'm trying to hire people, and I've got a lot of people interviewing, and this is a tip that I've said for years, and I say it again and again. And please, employers, remember, everybody that applies for the job was a customer first. So if you get 25 applicants, you're going to say no 24 times, but those 24 people took the time to send you their resume. And those 24 people thought it was important enough to want to work for your company. So if I could leave with some messages tonight, that one's near and dear to my heart. No matter what country they're from, even if they're not in Canada, you know, take a second, because you know what, when they arrive, maybe they'll choose to, you know, go to buy your tires. Darren Phillips Auto Repair would treat anybody and everybody incredible. We'll give him a shout out. Takes care of Mom and I like great. But, you know, please remember those things. And whether you're a restaurant, you know, kind of think about that person you're saying no to, where, you know, treat those individuals well. And I think if we could all give each other a little bit more kindness and acknowledgement, because it's a tough market and it's tough out there, that's probably a message that I also.
Yeah, and it's right. I mean, speaking to the industry of restaurant and hospitality right now, it's a tough place to be. So shout out to all the local business. Pardon?
It made me think of it because it was a restaurateur that I was recently speaking to, and I reminded them of that same advice, and they were wonderful and said the same thing back. That said, you know what, Michelle, thanks, because you know sometimes it's like, what do I do? They're not the right skill set, and I'm not finding the chef that they needed or whatever. And I said, well, you know what, they're going to be a future customer, so just make sure you give a little bit of an acknowledgement and let them know where it's at, so they can go put their time somewhere else. But you know, order out. Get some takeout, get to the farmers markets. It's going to be an extraordinary year at home, and we got to support each other. So you know, those messages of buy local and support local.
Support local is more important than ever.
It really is. It really is. And I promise you, does a happy dance on the back end when you do that. It's not
every time you go, right? I mean, I think I always eat local when I do go out. So, and I'm a huge fan of the farmers market. So, you speak to me. Well, thank you for
joining me at Cooking Club and sharing some recipes.
I definitely should make sure I tune in. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. I just popped into our social media just to see if we had any questions come through, but there's some people logged in just saying hello, watching. Good insight, Michelle.
Hi. It's interesting being on with you and not seeing the social media side. So.
Yeah, and I encourage anybody out there listening to us tonight or following along to pop any questions you have in the thread for Michelle, whether it's about any of her businesses or BPW. Michelle can tell you all about the club from her perspective as a member, a longtime member. And thanks so much, everybody, for watching.
And we'll follow up with those questions afterwards, Ashley, like you and I had talked earlier, and I thank you for that when I was asking a few of my own questions on the other side. So if anybody wants to connect, like I said, they can get it rnrsolution.com and then through the school for studyatlantic.com. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for taking the time tonight. And Ashley, I know that you and I are going to chat a few more things. And and thank you to all the BPW executive and the volunteers and members. It is not a big fee, and it's not about the fee. The gift that you get out of these incredible women that will pour into you every day. Another mentor, Aldia Landry, in her own way, who said, your network is your net worth. And this is a place that's rich in people and social currency. So thanks, BPW, and please come on in and join us.
Thanks, Michelle. Have a nice evening.
Thanks, everybody.